Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be talking about the new gacha game Wuthering Waves that is supposedly coming out in a couple of months this year. Now, before we get into anything, keep in mind that this is still in beta. So things can and still will change, but let us judge a couple of factors that are important to us as players, and I will be basing my judgment off of Honkai Star Rail and Genshin, but mostly Genshin. Although I will be lenient because again, it's a closed beta, it is the first version of the game, and there's a lot of room for improvement. So first off, I would like to start with movement. Movement in Wuthering Waves is very smooth and beautiful and convenient. You can run up walls and mountains, and there's even a grapple. And you can even do it as you're gliding, and you can jump really high and jump dash. And so far, the movement has been so much more freeing and less limiting than Genshin. Swimming is also notably faster, but you will still die if you run out of stamina. And I mean, fair enough. I've noticed that full damage is way less than Genshin, which is quite interesting, but I really hope they keep it that way because full damage ruined my life. Stamina is also sort of unlimited if you are outside of combat, which is a blessing because now you no longer have to wait for the Wuthering Waves version of Scaramouche just to explore without using up all your stamina. So far, it's one of the things that I really like about the game, and the parkour mechanics are also really fun and make sense, you know? If you're able to fight these insanely big monsters, surely you can do some parkour. Now moving on to the gacha system, and I'm sure that Hoyoverse is certainly not going to be happy about this. Characters in Wuthering Waves have a 0.8% 5-star drop rate, and for comparison, Honkai is 0.7% and Genshin is even lower at 0.6%. Even better than that, the heart pity is capped at 80, not 90. I don't know if there's a soft pity, and I assume we will find out more about that soon enough, but that's not the big deal here. The weapon banner does not have a 50-50. Could you imagine? There are two separate standard banners as well for characters and weapons, and on the weapon banner, you can specify which weapon that you want to get. Of course, as some mentioned, it could be that there's also not a lot of currency in the game, and then the lower pity would not really matter if you have to whale anyway. But judging by Kura's previous game, PGR, they are quite generous and F2P friendly, so hopefully that will not be a problem in the future. Now onto the ecosystem. The ecosystem is the equivalent to artifacts in Genshin but more. It is not limited by resin, so you just attack enemies in the overworld, which is a blessing, and it's also kind of like a Pokemon. You absorb enemies that you kill, although stronger enemies depend on your level, so you can't just absorb everything right off the bat. And the exciting feature is that you can actually turn into them. As for smaller enemies, you can summon them to attack. But the bigger ones, you actually get to be the boss. The smaller ones just attack next to you, and it's kind of adorable, and that brings us to combat. Combat in Wuthering Waves is actually way more complex, or I would rather say it has a lot of varied moves than Genshin. You can parry attacks, dodge, counterattack. Switching characters lets you perform outro and intro skills, so it feels so seamless, and even better, you can lock on targets, which is something that is very annoying if you play with a catalyst in Genshin, and it's just not there. Not to mention the whole echoes thing, which you can transform into mid-battle to fight the bosses. Overall, it's probably one of the best selling points of Wuthering Waves as it looks more engaging and exciting, and it doesn't feel limiting or repetitive, which is an issue I've had with Genshin. But it's also a little bit worrying in other aspects that it seems like it's been focused enough on one thing, and the other points that I will talk about seem a little bit neglected, like the environment. And it's pretty, don't get me wrong, but it kind of feels lacking to me, and this could be very personal because I, as a person, was attracted by Genshin's colorful, vibrant environment. And this game doesn't have that, but then again, I want to give it a chance to let it be its own thing. I don't want another copy of Genshin or copy of Zelda or whatever they used to call Genshin. It seems like there's less of an emphasis on exploration though, and more on combat. And as someone who actually enjoys exploration and pretty environments, I hope this is actually just a beta thing, and that it gets fixed later, or just an issue that I seem to observe now and it's not actually real. Because as much as I love the combat system, this game has potential to offer a lot and do a lot. And if it's going against one of the strongest gacha games right now, it has to do a lot of things. And as much as I worry about the rather subdued colors and less saturated environment, maybe that will also be something in its advantage, to look a bit more distinct and different. Animation and graphics. What can I say? I am a big fan of it. Also, I want to thank the devs so much for putting 120 FPS because I was so disappointed when I found out there's no such thing in Genshin. The animations of the characters look pretty and beautiful. The cutscene animations are very gorgeous, and if you compare it to Genshin, I feel like it actually wins, or at least it's on the same level as it. Although I will say that as of late, especially after 4.x, Genshin has improved tremendously. But if we compare it with the previous versions, then I would say Wuthering Waves actually has better animations. Not to mention, the characters are very expressive. Now, with Honkai Star Rail, I feel like actually Honkai has similar animation to it, if not better. But again, I feel like it's meant to be more similar to Genshin, as it's an open world in the way that Genshin is open world. So I will not judge too much, and then again, like I said, it's in beta, and it will get better as the game goes on. So I'm not going to be harsh. Let's just not compare it to Bibitur Lune. Is that the pronunciation? I don't know. But that scene, it was totally unbeatable. Even then, the graphics and smooth animation and expressive, and I mean really expressive characters, are one of the most exciting aspects for me. This brings us to the point that I'm more anxious about, I guess, which is the story and soundtrack. I am so anxious about this because I am a story person. And the story so far is not that promising to me. And I'm worried because I'm not feeling that kind of pull that I felt with Genshin. Like I feel like I was pulled into the story and I wanted to continue. Even though, to be quite honest, there was a lot that was confusing me at first. But I kind of just found myself pulled into it and I wanted to keep going. And I'm scared that they may actually not do that very well with Wuthering Waves, and I hope that they actually can, because I do want another game that I can play. And the thing is, I've also heard that they had rewritten 90% of the story based on what they got in the first closed beta, and I'm worried about the plot, like it has to be good, you know? But so far, as it is a closed beta, the devs seem to be very responsive to criticism and want to improve, unlike certain games. And we're only seeing the first version of this. And usually the story gets better and picks up from there, but I really wanted to have that pull, to just pull the players in, and not everyone can be as patient, and I will admit I'm a very patient person when it comes to these things, and I usually wait before making a final judgment. That's not to say it's particularly bad, it just does not feel that promising, but who knows? Maybe things will change. I will say it's a bit mid, but other aspects can compensate for that, but I really want it to be better. And for the soundtrack, I've listened to it and it's actually very good and lovely, and I'm so excited to listen to it while I play, because I'm one of those people who gets obsessed with the soundtracks of any game or media I watch, and I will link it in the description. It feels a little bit more, I don't know how to explain it, like it's not metal, it's not futuristic, but I can't find a word that describes it. I don't play music, but I'm a very obsessed person when it comes to soundtracks. But I'll say it has its own also serene soundtracks and peaceful ones. It's very different from Genshin, and if I had to compare it, it would be more similar to Honkai, but it's not really similar to either, to be quite honest. I have not finished Honkai though, so what do I know? It really reminded me of one thing, but I'm not going to say it because I know it's not really that similar, and it's just my brain making things up. So without that, I will just say it's a good type of different, and it definitely suits the colors of the game and the theme of it. And I'm just so excited about the game that Wuthering Waves could be, and I really hope that I get to play it when it comes out, and that I can experience it for myself and experience what it actually turns out to be in the end. I think it's also important for us Genshin players to acknowledge that miHoYo has not had strong competition so far. I know some people play Tower Fantasy or whatever, and I don't mean to be harsh, but it's not at all comparable. There are new games that came out as well, like Reverse 1999, and as good as the game is, it does not really impact Genshin. Do you get it? Because it doesn't really replace what it does, but Wuthering Waves, on the other hand, offers us a strong game that has like a big potential to be competition against Genshin, and that is very, very important and actually a positive thing for all of us players. It will be difficult, of course, for Wuthering Waves to flourish and be its own game, because we all remember what Genshin went through and the criticism that they had to undergo, and I can only guess it's going to be a lot harsher for Wuthering Waves. But I hope that it will stand out and push through and improve and be its own game. Because for this to be as strong as Genshin or even beat it, which I don't think can happen, but for it to stand aside and compete, it needs to do things not just well enough, but better than Genshin. Because we know as soon as the comparisons are out, they will be endless and ruthless. So for those of us who want to support the new game and the new things that are coming out, let's try to be as kind and as patient as possible and, manage our own expectations. And I think so far, it's actually amazing for what it is. And I really only see improvement from here, especially with how willing they are to listen to the players. So with that said, I hope you liked this video about my thoughts on the game, and that I will see you again on my channel. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you would so kindly do that. And I'll see you later. Bye bye!